Welcome back, my stitchy friends. My name is Laura. You found Lala D Stitches, and today's episode is a quilting bee. I have a lot to share. I have some pretty significant finishes, which just feels like a really productive way to finish off the year. And then I've got plans. So, how are you? I kind of dove right into that. I hope you're doing well. I hope that as I'm filming this, we're approaching the weekend before Christmas. And if you celebrate, I hope that your plans are coming along and that you're finding quiet moments through all of the prep and crazy. We have family coming in to town this weekend. So hopefully the roads will stay clear for everybody traveling, and yeah, it'll be really nice. My husband has a couple days off of work, and so we get to just stay home and eat yummy food and be together. So that'll be really nice. Hopefully I'll get some stitching time in. Maybe we'll watch some movies. Let's see. I'm sorry if you hear crunching. Grace is, let's see if we can find her. Crunching on a bone. Down there. And yeah, she gets excited and then bones must be chewed. So it's not a bad thing. Her teeth need it. Okay, yeah, so I've been doing these videos every other month, which is working out well so far as I have lots to share. So when we met last for a quilting bee, it was October, and I had kind of wrapped up really my spooky stitching at that point. I wasn't really planning on doing any more, and I didn't. I kind of dove right into, I guess, what you could call holiday stitching, and then just working on, I'm picking strings off of all the projects sitting around me. Welcome to the studio. Anyways, so I met some of my goals. I did not meet some of my goals. I surpassed other goals. So all in all, a successful couple of months, I think. So let's start with, we'll go a little bit chronologically just for ease of processing it all, not getting jumbled in my brain. So I have been slowly doing some of the pillows from Pillow Talk. This is by Adita Sitar of Laundry Basket Quilts, and I'll show you the back here just so you can see kind of an array of what they are. Oh no, runaway pattern. They're beautiful. They're really fun. So I haven't done a bunch. You can kind of see the check marks of the ones I have done. So I guess I've done 4. I thought I'd done more than that. I guess I've dreamt of doing more than that. I love them all. I hope to make them all eventually. But we'll see. We'll see how it goes. I have a goal this year, kind of jumping ahead, to do 4 more this year. So that's not a bad rate. You know, I'm finishing them rather than as pillows, as pillow shams, so that I can store them easy and just use the same pillows all the time. So the one I did in November is this one, which they call, what is his real name? Lone Star Pillow. And I love how it turned out. It turned out slightly smaller than expected. I'm not sure what I did, but apparently I did it consistently because my points match, and who cares? It did still fit over. My pillow forms they're just from IKEA. They're the down ones, so they squish down pretty good if you need them to. And this is my back, which determined my front palette. And something I loved about it is, like, this can read fall, this can read summer. You could throw it out in January. Like, it's a pretty neutral palette. So, and I'm just doing a zipper hidden zipper, and so I can just zip my pillow in and out of it, which is fabulous. And I tried a new quilting motif. I quilt all my own things on my machine, not this tiny one. I have a bigger machine. This is my piecing machine, and then I have a bigger machine. And so I do I do all my own quilting, so hit or miss. This one was fortunately a hit. I like it. In fact, I liked it well enough that I would try to do it on something bigger at some point. So kind of a nice airy pattern. And okay, I guess I'll just set those on the floor. The floor is not going to hurt it. Okay, so I did that, and then at the same time, I knew I wanted to do a Christmas one, and this one is actually still on the pillow because it's out currently. So I did Ho Ho, and we've got fuzzies all over it because, like I said, it's currently being used, so it sits on my couch. Now I will say on this, the inside, let me see if I can zip it open here. I backed it with muslin to quilt it. You can see that. That's the backing. And I just do it like you would a quilt for the front, layer it with a piece of batting, and then just some scrap of whatever works on the back. But I did not, when I was thinking about quilting this one, I was thinking the back will show, because normally on like a wall hanging or, you know, table topper or quilt, it will show. So my brain was in that mode, and I matched my thread to the backing and the top. So I used two different colors of thread, light on the bottom, dark on the top. And that was a mistake in hindsight. I did not restart it, because once you get far enough into, you know, you've done this leaf motif, I'm not going to pull that out because I'm starting to see a little bit of the bottom coming through. I don't care for it. I wish I had chosen to use the same red in my bobbin as I did in my top thread, but we live and learn, and it still looks cute. And again, I was trying a new kind of pointed holly leaf feel-ish kind of pattern. So I liked my lessons from this one. Oh my gosh, stop it, Laura. I like the quilting motif. I would, if I were to do it again, match my bobbin thread to my top thread so that I don't get those little pops of light coming through. And from a distance, you really can't tell. It's just really not a big deal. When it's sitting on my couch, I don't even think about it. It's when I sit down next to it that I'm like, ah, dang. But it's all good. Put this cute little holly print in the letters, which just gave a little bit of life to it. And it has a flashy green zipper. That's the other thing. I ran out of red. And I'm working from stash right now. So that's not pretty either. That's okay, nobody sees the back. Not really. The front's what matters, and I like it. So it's gonna be fine. Flaws and all. Oh boy. Oh well, okay. So I did those, I wanna say I cut them out at the start of November, but then I didn't really get them finished till towards the end. In fact, I think my Thanksgiving pillow, the Lone Star, was on the couch or the chair a total of a week, like 3 or 4 days, maybe a week, before Thanksgiving had come and gone, and I switched everything out. So what are you gonna do? It just took a little bit of time. But I got busy doing other things. So one of those other things, and I'm realizing, oh, it's right here, okay. I've got stacks and stacks and stacks of things. So I've been working out of Joe's Little Favorites again. I love this book. I know that she has a Joe's Little Favorites 2 and Joe's Little Favorites 3. I wish I had the whole set, because I would just love to fill my home with little quilts. I have made everything from this book. I ran it as a class, it's all scribbled in because of that, and I wrote notes and all sorts of things because I had to teach it. So it's a pretty mangled book, but it's consistent and good, and you change a color palette and suddenly it's a whole new quilt. So I went in, I decided this fall that I wanted to make a couple of new little quilts. So I picked this one. And I also knew specifically I wanted at least one of them to be a Christmas quilt. I had made years and years ago, I mean probably 15 years ago, I made a table topper quilt with some applique on it. And last year some wax got spilled on it and it stained it and I couldn't get it out. It was pretty sad. But it was an old quilt. It had got many, many years of use. And so I didn't put that one out this year because it's stained. You'd have to really cover it up with something pretty substantial to hide that. But I knew I wanted something. We have a coffee table and I love having a little quilt on it. So I decided to make a new one. So this is the first one I chose, and I went as close to this as I could out of stash. And I'll set that back in there. And this is the quilt. And I'm thrilled with it. I just love how it turned out. I did kind of a wandering featherish for the quilting, which might show better on the back. Nope, it's busy. That's okay though. Yeah, all came from stash. If I had had enough of this print, which has cute little red flowers and delicate red green vines, I would have chosen that for my binding. They did go lighter in the sample, so I was copying that, so I just went with that. And this binding's great. There's nothing wrong with this binding at all. It's in the blocks. I don't have any complaints about it. But if I'd had that one, I think that's the one I would have chosen. That one or this one, which is a William Morris, I think. Anyways, gorgeous. I love it. It's kind of a mix of styles. There's some 1800s in there. This one has some gold overlay on it, so it's a little flashy. Strings. This one's been out on the table too, so it's probably covered in dog hair as well. Anyways, we've got some wovens. And I'm pretty sure the binding is an old Art to Heart. Is that the right designer name? Art to Heart, I think. It was a Christmas line. Anyways. Yep, it's just a mix. That's the beauty of scrappy stuff. So I love it. I love how warm and traditional it is, and I have really enjoyed having it on our coffee table. Real quick and dirty. Log cabins go fast. I had it all cut out and just stacked red, green, and creams, and then started sewing and just tried to make them as unique as I could. Tried not to put the stripe in exactly the same spot, which as I say that, I'm recognizing that this green stripe isn't exactly the same spot. So I tried. Sometimes I failed. It's all good, because you'll never know unless you're looking. Anyways, love that. That felt really good to have done and ready for use this season, and yeah, that was really fun. So the next and I guess last small thing that I did, because I was on a roll, was 6 months or so ago, I was gifted a cross-stitch portfolio for project portfolio, and I loved it. I'd seen other people using similar back portfolios, words, and I I really think they're pretty, and it made a lot of sense for the project I was working on that was for Pollinator Sal. If you followed that, which I'm almost done with. So that'll be good. That'll be a finish before the end of the year. Side note. It's like my brain gets these little bubbles like, oh, you need to finish this thought that just occurred to you. Anyways, I loved the portfolio and I thought, oh, this would be really slick and they would look so pretty sitting in a cubby shelf. Especially if you made them to fit into the cubby so it would look like books. Anyway, so I have a dream of that. But I didn't have a pattern for it because I didn't make it. So I kind of took some time looking over it, using a ruler, making some measurements, and I reverse engineered myself a portfolio. And of course, I had to choose Alice in Wonderland fabric. So this is my portfolio. It's not perfect. In fact, my binding stitching there on the front cover drives me crazy. But it's fine. You try new things and sometimes they work and sometimes they don't. Anyways, I also got it all the way completed and had forgotten to put a snap on. So, you know, like I said, I was reverse engineering it, but but I am pretty tickled with how it turned out. I've got the zipper pocket and like a pattern pocket, then the little Orts panel, just a picture panel because this fabric is darling. And yeah, I'm super excited to tuck an Alice in Wonderland project into it. So I actually have 2 more cut out. We'll see, I kind of wrote down what I did as I did it, and we'll see if that triggers my brain enough to help me recreate it again. But I have a couple of unicorn portfolios cut out in hopes that if I get my stuff together in the next week, I have 2 more things to finish and then I'm done with Christmas stitching. It's been a little delayed. I was waiting on a delivery and details. Anyways, everything is here, and once I'm done filming, I can kind of tuck everything away and bang those out and it'll be great. But I would love to be able to get the last 2, my unicorn bags, done by New Year's, because I'm doing New Year's stitching. My New Year's Eve stitching is going to be unicorn projects. Most of them are whips, and I think I have 2 new starts, which will be fun for that night, but it would be also delightful to tuck them into unicorn portfolios. So anyways, we'll see if it actually happens, and if it doesn't, no stress. It's not a big deal. I'm not going to hold myself to it, but it's just one of those brain children in my noggin. Okay, so what did I do next? Next, we were coming upon December and the ultimate switch of decor to Christmas in my home. And I have been working on Stars Above by Meghan Collins. I want to say, I don't actually have the pattern right here because epic fail, it's done, so it's all tucked away. I think I pulled out everything else I worked on, but not that one. It's fine. Best laid plans. Anyways, the top was finished this summer and I just needed to find backing fabric for it and quilt the sucker, which was giant. It fits my king size bed. But here's the thing, the dealio schmealio. Big quilts take a lot of backing. And I got into November and I was like, I don't have extra money to go buy, $100 worth of backing fabric. So I went digging through my stash and we hodgepodged a backing together. So let me tuck my chair in and grab my quilt and try not to trip on Gracie over here, and I'll show you what it looks like. Tuck. I'm so excited. original had a navy blue background and solid colors in the wheel. And it's delightful, but I saw So Merry Happy on Instagram a couple years ago had started her version of a Christmas, and she did a bit more vintage modern Christmas, if you will. It's she's got pinks and teals, and it's a lot lighter, a lot more low volume even within her colored prints. And I'm branching out, but I'm typically a bit more traditional in my color palettes, even though I'm not traditional in my prints, because who doesn't need a good octopus? Anyway, so I went with red and greens predominantly in the wheel, solid red consistently through all of my stars backgrounds, and then low volumes everywhere else. So I'll try to hold this up. It's huge. This is a quarter of it. And then I'll bring it more close. I'll bring it closer so you can see more details. Oh yeah. Oh, sorry, Grace. She just got buried in quilt, which wouldn't be the first time she's been buried in quilt, but you know. All right, we're just gonna do our best here. And then I tripped over my slipper. I love it so much. So the backing wound up being an interesting game. So as I said, I did not have 8 yards or whatever it would have taken to do this backing. What I did have was 2 yards here, half a yard there, 3/4 of a yard there, a fat quarter here, and extra blocks. So I did some maths and I did rows. Some of the rows had just low volumes in them, and some of the rows had a few blocks, which are about 20 inches square once you do all of the rounds. So that took up a good amount of space, and I love the back. It's just kind of these floating circles, an echo. They're not lined up. They're intentionally offset, so it wouldn't look like I was trying to make rows or that it was supposed to be anything other than floating circles. And I love how it turned out. I think it worked really well. And it didn't cost me anything. Oh, except for, I take that back. I think I did have to go out and buy 1/2 yard because I was just short on pieces big enough. But they're so fun and pretty, and they're all different. This one I had 2.5 yards of. I think I'd been hoarding it since I was a teenager, working back in Spokane at a quilt shop, and I'd loved it and originally thought I would make a quilt to go on a table with it. And then I never did. In fact, I found my little sticky note where I'd scribbled, "This would be cool, used this way," basically. And it was still tucked into the yardage, and I just never followed through on that idea. I'm kind of happy that this is where it wound up, because it will be used and loved, and got some fun kind of pillow ticking stripes, holly. This was supposed to be the lining on, I don't know if you can see, the light it's red and green little dots. It was supposed to be lining on Christmas stockings that I had dreamt of making, and in fact I saved just enough to do 2 stockings. So if I ever get the gumption to follow through on that idea. Then I had a couple moments where, it wasn't quite long enough, so you had to add a couple more inches, but that all plays into the character of the finish. I really love it. I'm so glad I didn't go out and buy all the same fabric. There's just something so cozy about this being completely scrapped. Cozy. She's had enough bones. Great girl. Anyway, so I did kind of an echoing, I don't know how to describe it. It's like an echoing scallop almost, and I loved it as I was stitching because I would start small and then kind of rippling or echoing but growing shapes. I'm not describing this well. Anyways, but it felt like when you're a kid how you draw a Christmas tree. So even though it wasn't intended to look like Christmas trees, that's kind of the effect it wound up giving, was just, it's not showing well, this kind of rippled scalloped that just, I don't know, it works out well. I really liked it. Again, this was one I hadn't done before necessarily, and one of the beauties of this is sometimes they're really small scallops, sometimes they're really big scallops, and it just works because it's whimsical and fun and random. I love all over quilting for that reason, because it just becomes a bit more, I don't know, I just like it. And it's something I can do. I can do a king size quilt. Technically, this was categorized as an oversized queen, but it completely fits my king size bed. Anyways, all over easy to do, or easier to do on my home machine. So I love these reindeer. They're so sweet. And the snow angels. Oh my gosh. And then just, the fabrics are so fun. Somewhere in here I have R2-D2. Let me see if I can find him. Since we're looking. Oh, there he is. Hello. What are the odds of me finding a Star Wars fandom Christmas fabric that fit into the palette? Like, pure happiness, that's what that is. Oh gosh, I love it. Anyways, so it's been on our bed, and it will go back on our, right now, very stripped bed once I'm done filming here, but I'm so tickled with the finish. It's so cozy and fun, and I actually really enjoyed all of this. I will say, with how they have you press these center stars, the points get very thick, and I did break a couple of needles while I was quilting because it was just so many layers to go through, and you're moving at the same time, and so just the combination of the motion and hitting those thick layers, I did break a couple of needles, which was frustrating, but it was my first time doing stars like this, so you know, an adventure on all fronts and completely fun. I really enjoyed this project. So that was a big, huge thing. It took me a week to quilt this. I had my room completely taken over, and I would come in the afternoon or morning, whenever I had time, and just give it an hour or two. I was watching Deadliest Catch in the background while I was doing it, and excuse me. Yeah, after a week it was done. I just had to be bound. I just did a nice dark green, which just gives it a nice little frame. So, yay. Oops. Oh no. All right, we'll just set that there. Okay, so let me grab this probably next. I think that's on my list. Yes, okay, so Patchwork Trees is what I've been calling this. Let's see what it's actually called. Christmas Patchwork. So my next project I had cut out in July as part of Jolly July, and I just tucked it away for some easy, fun stitching at Christmas time. And so that would be this one. Seasonal Patchwork by Fig Tree & Co. This is such a cute pattern. It's so fun. I'd like to make all three eventually, but I started with Christmas because it was my fave. and it was an upcoming season. So I again just went from, I'm trying to think if I bought anything for this during the summer. I did pick up, this was a new print. It's an art gallery fabric. And did I buy anything else, or is it all? Oh yes, and then this piece, this mintier green, was a companion piece to the cute little stripe. But I believe everything else, yeah, everything else came from stash. So it was, these were just impulse buys because they were cute earlier in the year, and then they wound up working well in this. And I'll stop gabbing and stand up and show you, because it went together super fast. I had all the blocks done in a week of just coming in for a couple hours in the afternoon. And then once I had all the blocks done, I was like, well, I'm not just gonna let it languish. I've got to put these together. So I did, and it just went super quick. Any of these, if you, I mean, I would say confident beginner and up, especially if you're an intermediate to advanced quilter, these would make the easiest quick gifts. It just goes so quickly. It's so easy. How many times can I say quickly and easy? I used this grunge for the border. I would have liked something with a little bit of a print, a little bit more airy, but I didn't have anything with enough yardage, and this one did. And it was the right color red for my brain. So it works. I do actually have, I don't know that I brought it out here. I do actually have some backing that will work for this. That I think I had slated for something else that never got finished. But, oh, I should show it up close. So cute, so fun. Colors aren't translating very well because the light is weird in here. But really fun. This was a fun one to do. Anyways, I was going to quilt it. I had every intention of completely finishing that this month, even if I only threw it on the couch for a couple of days. But I got a bee in my bonnet and decided to focus on Midnight at the Oasis, which, if you've been with me for very long, especially this year, because I've put a lot of work into it this year, you'll know that I started this in 2019, I want to say, 2018 or 19. It's been a long time, and I definitely hit a bunch of life events and kind of a lack of motivation. So I had the first 3 rounds, so the center, this, and then this third border, which I redesigned, and then I just hit a wall, and I, life. And so I didn't work on it for years, and then I pulled it out again sometime last year, and in the last year and a half, I have done the final 3 rows. Just found my mojo again. I'm sorry for the planes. I don't even register them a lot of the time anymore, but I know you can hear them in the videos, so I do apologize for that. Sometimes they do really low passes over our home. They might be doing another circle. It might get loud again. So while they are flying about, I will show you my finish on this, which is awesome. I literally just finished this a couple days ago. So, since we met, I have done all of the courthouse steps, and that actually wound up including some cut out. I thought they were all cut out, but they were only about half cut out. They must be doing a few rounds. Anyway, so I finished cutting them out and then let it sit for a few weeks, honestly, while I was doing everything else. And then I came back to it this week and got a little obsessed, because once you lay them all out, I was able to lay everything out by color and just chain piece it, and they just went really quickly. I don't know what my brain glitch was that had slowed me down, but doesn't really matter now because they're done. I tried to do a little bit of a color flow through that final border, which was a bit of an afterthought as I was piecing them rather than when I was cutting them. So I did not have an even distribution of color, but that's okay. That kind of adds to the imbalance, kind of adds to the funky quality of this project, which I'm completely in love with. And like I said, I did redesign this third border. At the time, I had seen somebody do a baby quilt that had smaller scallops, and I thought that was so cute, and so I would made mine into mountains because I live in the mountains. And then I was really big into English paper piecing at the time, and so I wanted to throw some of that in there too, and that just seemed to work for the corners. Oh my goodness. I'm so thrilled. So I have it completed. The top is done, and I've been hoarding like a dragon my backing fabric, which is this yummy one, which is also Jen Kingwell. That's one thing I didn't mention, is this was, but for one fabric, exclusively Jen Kingwell prints. And the pattern is designed by Jen Kingwell. And so this is also Jen Kingwell, just to wrap it all up, keep it all together. And I bought it, around the time I started it. So I've literally been holding on to this gorgeous fabric that I really love. Wouldn't it make a pretty spring dress? It's been hard not to use it for other things, but this is what it was purchased for. And now it will get its day in the sun. Oh my gosh. Look how cute these are going to be together. Ooh, it's so much fun. And then the binding will come back to this polka dot, which matches both the front and the back. And we'll just give one final line. I love it. So, while I had backing fabric for this, oh my goodness, the planes are bad. I am so sorry. It's been quiet all day until I decided to record. My goodness. I hope it's not too disruptive. It is a little, but I don't know what to do about it. Okay, anyway, so I've got my backing, I've got my binding, and I had just enough batting left over from quilting Christmas. I can't think of the word, Stars Above, that I was able to kind of Mod Podge it together here with some zigzags and some scraps. And I have just enough batting to quilt that sucker. So sometime at the start of the year, oh my gosh, the strings. Sometime at the start of the year, in the first few weeks of the year, I am going to pin and quilt that, and I'll be sure to share when it's completed because I am so excited. And while originally I thought, oh, I'll just toss this over the couch, it would look really cute on my couch. My couch is kind of an aqua color, soft. But I kind of want it on the wall up here. I might have to rearrange my room so that that's my new backdrop. What do you think? I'm so excited. I can't believe the top is done. It's a little like brain stopping. Oh, I've been telling everybody. I've been so excited. It feels like such an accomplishment, and I'm so tickled with the results. So, yay. And that's what I've worked on. That's literally everything other than secret projects for the holidays. That's what I've been working on in the sewing room. Other than, oh, excuse me, one more thing is sitting right down here. I am participating loosely in the Big Woods Block of the Month. It's a collaboration between Sarah Fielke and Tula Pink. It is adorable. And oh my gosh, the things people are doing. If you're on Instagram, you should check out Tula Pink's post yesterday. She showed her version, and she's doing this beautiful, she's cheating. She can design her own fabric. So she is using one of her newest lines, and she's doing this beautiful like ombre color melt through the quilt. It is so cute, and I'm a little jealous, but I still love what I'm working on, even though I am, don't tell anybody, 4 months behind. My goal had been to catch up, and I really did have every good intention, but then, and these are all going to sound like the excuses they are, but my printer ran out of ink, and I got busy doing other things. So yeah, so this is my first month. And it is so cute. It is so cute. Finished my little birds, which are extras. You'll notice they're not featured in the original picture. And that's something fun, is that they're adding little extra embellishments that you can choose to do. If you fell in love with the original and you don't want them, there's no pressure to do them. I'm just pulling from stash to fill in with them. But I think it's fun. So, of course, I've jumped in and added, oops, I don't want to do it that way. Oops. Fold so my seams are protected. Because this fabric, I will say this, frays terribly. Frays terribly. So anything I can do to protect those raw edges is a good thing. And I've actually been very grateful for the book that I made. If you want to see more about this, I talked about it, I want to say in, let's see, August might have been when I finished it. And the pattern's not available that I'm aware of, but I did give a bit more detail, and it's a fun concept. So anyways, I did do my owl. I swapped out almost all the fabrics for it. And my eyes are not good. He's got kind of buggy eyes because I just did them this week, and I had those terrible, pretty, but terrible stick-on nails, and I could not, my fine motor skills were compromised. Let's just say that. So his eyes are a little funky, but you know, it's gonna be fine. Once it's all quilted, I probably won't notice most of the time. And I am trying, so Sarah has a, can I call you Sarah? She has her own method. She's a very accomplished appliquer, and it has been years since I've done any consistent applique. I used to do a lot and really enjoyed it, and I was better at it, frankly, than I am now. A lack of use of your skills, and you lose them. Anyway, so since I knew that I had probably lost some of my skill level, I thought, why not try her way of doing things? And that adds an additional element of, well, that doesn't look so good, or that's awkward. But it's been very interesting, and I do feel like some of the tips have been a bit mind-blowingly helpful, and others maybe not so much. So it's been fun to try it her way, and then kind of as I'm doing a little bit more, and I'm sure this will increase as I go through the project, brain. Oh, kind of merging our two styles together into what will become my moving forward from this point style. So, as I said, I am way behind. They have released the skunk and the bear. I think it's the skunk and the bear, and they've already done the butterflies and the mushrooms. So, I'll catch up. It's fine. It's not a race. It's not a race, and I am enjoying it, but I've gotten to the point, last night I was finishing up the owl. His name is Percival. I've decided mine's name is Penny because she's a bit more feminine, but so I was finishing Penny up, and I ran out of everything that was prepped without needing to sit at a machine for a few minutes, so. I really am sorry about the planes. It's okay, it's a good chance to like get a drink. It's not like a helicopter, they don't hover directly overhead. Okay, so that's everything I worked on in the last 2 months. Pretty dang productive. Unusually productive. Let's add that as well. This is not a normal level of productivity. I swear, the last quarter of the year, I have just been all about finishing things. And in fact, as I've looked, we'll jump into like plans and kind of looking ahead towards next year for the rest of the video. But, and don't worry, there's still fun things to see. It won't be just me jabbering about planners and stuff, but as I've been looking through what I've done this past year, it's been very interesting to see kind of the busy times when I'm productive, when I start a lot of things. I've definitely been on a finishing streak for the last few months, which has felt really good, but I'll be honest, as much as I'm enjoying the finishes and stuff, I am a little burnt out. I was talking to my friend about this last night. I was like, I am not doing a lot of holiday stitching. I have a couple real big days where I've gotten stuff done, but between holiday stitching and then finishing all these things that I don't want to bring into next year, or that I've just gotten, a little obsessed with because I'm so close, I'm tired. I'm tired. Has that slowed down my role for planning next year? Not in the least. I have big plans for next year, and I'm very excited about them, actually. But I think for the next 2 weeks, the final 2 weeks of the year, I will just slow down and enjoy that. I'm going to disconnect and be with my family and stitch when it feels good. Hi, baby. You saying hi? Hi, sweetheart. I know. Did you get lonely? Oh. You're a good girl. Can you go lay down again? No, we're not gonna play. What was I saying? Before she so cutely interrupted us. Good girl. Oh yeah, I'm just gonna slow down and enjoy and stitch or sew what feels good, and not like being in this room. This is my favorite room in my whole house, and it never feels like a pressure. I am very intentional to, if it starts to feel like a job or a slog, like unless I really have a specific deadline for something, I try very hard to keep it joyful and creative, because I do feel like my creativity suffers when I'm listening to jets fly over my house now. When I'm push and not sitting back and kind of enjoying and appreciating and you know what I'm saying. Anyways, so yeah, I'm just gonna really lean hard into that slow motion, enjoying things for a couple weeks, and I think that will be very restorative and have me really pumped up and excited to go into all my plans. So let's talk about those, because friends, there's some good stuff coming. So this is my brain binder. If you're new with me, I love to be organized and do planning things, and I spend inordinate amounts of time being organized because I enjoy it. Anyways, so last year so let's see here, where is it? Yeah, I took it out because it's updated. So I have my quarterly goal page, which I've gotten started for next year. I have my whip list, and then each tab is a different project that I am currently working on. And you'll see more details on that as we go. I thought it'd be fun to, because this kind of counts as this is my planning video for quilting. I'll do my cross stitch plans, which are still in their final organizational stages. I don't know. I'm still figuring it out, the finalization of those, at least for January, because everything is subject to change, right? These are the best laid plans, hopes, wishes, and dreams, and we'll see what happens, which has been very interesting. So last year, or this past January, 2024, I should say, I started out the year with 12 whips. And these are more specifically quilting whips. Like, they involve piecing on a machine. That sounds like a weird definition, but I do wool applique, I do embroidery. I used to do embroidery. I haven't done a lot for the last few years. I dream about doing more embroidery. My hands, I have to choose what they're gonna do though, or I'll burn them out. Anyways, then there's applique quilts, just cotton applique, and then there's straight pieced, so it's all done on the machine. So I've got a pretty wide variety of projects going, and I have a handful in each category. I will say my wool applique, I really only have 2 projects going. 2 whips, if you will. And my embroidery, I probably have 3 or 4 that I've done maybe a quarter of the project on. You know, it's just kind of, it's like with cross stitch. You kind of go with what feels good, and it shifts. And so you wind up with a room full of magical whips. So when I say I started with 12 whips, these were projects I worked with on my machine. So cotton quilt whips, like you've seen so far. Not the pillows, none of the small projects, those don't count. These are the bigger lap size and up quilts. So I started with 12. Over the course of the year, I started 7 projects. I quilted 7 of my languishing tops. And I am starting 2025 with 7 whips. So I realize now, as I say that, I did not actually count how many tops in general I finished, but in theory that was around 5. No, it would have been more than 5, because I started with 12 and I'm ending with 7. 5 less, but then I added 7. So technically, in theory, I finished 11 tops. I might have to double check that math. But I know that I added 7 new. I quilted 7 tops. I started with 12 whips. And I'm carrying into the new year 7 whips. So these are projects that I've already started. I have either a little or a lot done on them. Big Woods is part of them that you just saw, my applique one. And yes, only one of those, no, 2 of them is a carryover that was a whip already coming into this year. So it's kind of interesting to look at that. Like, I've been very productive. While I do carry a good number of quilt whips, I do have a good rotation happening on them too. So that was a bit reassuring just to see kind of some statistics there. Let's look at, okay. I really generalized this section in my notes, and so I'm just trying to decide where to go with. I think I'm going to skip the whips I'm bringing forward. You've seen them in the past year. So I'm just going to talk about the ones I'm definitely going to start. I have a couple of gift quilts, so quilts I'm going to give away this year, which I haven't done for a couple of years. I did the majority of my quilting for the last decade or so has been gifted quilts. I will say the exception to not doing it was last year. I did do a Christmas quilt for my father. But other than that, so I used to work full time. I am currently fortunate enough to not be working a full-time job, which is good because my health has been a bit, whole nother story we won't go into. Anyway, so it's good that I don't have to work because of those issues, but it's also when I ended my time with my last place of work, I had spent at least the last decade basically giving away everything I had finished. The things I had started a handful of things for myself, and they always took a back burner to the things I was giving away. And I loved doing that. I mean, that's why I did it, right? I love giving my work away. I find it very satisfying. And, but I wound up moving into a new home shortly after leaving that job and realizing again, because it wasn't the first time I'd had this thought, but that I really didn't have very many things in my home that said a quilter lives here. And so I've spent the last, I guess it's 2 years now, trying to finish things for my home. And I feel really good about that, like just kind of taking time to make things for us. And our home does feel cozier, and I am grateful to have had the time and resources to do that. So, but I'm ready to start, as I'm inspired to make a quilt for somebody, I'm ready to start, allocating some of my time for larger scale gifts. Because like this year, I made most of my gifts, but they were smaller scale, right? And they're not lap size quilts. Anyways, so I have a couple planned for gifting for this year, and then a bunch of fun starts and stuff. So I've got a stack here. The first one we'll talk about is one of the ones I will be gifting, which is why it gets a January start. So let me I can show you the back of this. This is just the back of the pattern. So this is Bjorn Bear by Elizabeth Hartman. I really like her patterns. And I saw, let me pull my planner out here. Online, somebody had finished it. Let's see if you can see this. It's going to be a little blurry because tiny picture. Printed on my computer. But they had alternated bears with bear paw blocks and then kept it pretty earthy brown colors. And I love that idea. My father-in-law, who will never watch this, so I'm not worried about talking about his future gift. Oh heavens, we'll just forget that. His name, if you will, for the grandchildren is Papa. And so this makes me instantly think Papa Bear. I don't know. But up until, again, a couple of years ago, they always lived out in the woods. And so, again, a kind of a double association, nature and Papa Bear. And so I thought I worked up. The blocks are a little funky size. They finish 12 by 13 or something like that. Let me see if I have my notes here. It should have them. It should. I should. Yeah, 12.5 by 13.5 inch blocks. So I have kind of worked up a little rough sketch of, and then some math to be able to make bear paw blocks that will fit the size of the bears. And I'm going to do half and half. So it will be half bears, half bear paw blocks. And I'm going to do it because I'm trying to do everything I can other than thread refills, basically, from stash for 2025. I decided to do it in batiks. So from here, these are the bears. And they just take a fat quarter each. And I'll have to go in, like the ears have little accent colors. So as I make the bears, I'll dive back into my batik box and pull out an accent color to go with each one. But I just wanted to establish my 10 bears. And then I'm going to do the bear paws in kind of earthy green forest colors. So even though it's bear paw block, it's going to be more like bears in the woods. I don't know. It was a way to pull more colors in because I didn't have enough browns to do all browns. Plus, I think that my father-in-law will really enjoy having those greens and, you know, even into a little bit of blue hints as part of it. And then scrappy backgrounds as much as I can. And if I have to go out and buy, you know, a fat quarter here or there to fill in, hopefully this will do most of it. But because it's so scrappy, it shouldn't make a difference if I have to go out and get just a little bit to fill it in. So that's pretty exciting. I was originally thinking I would do like 2 bears and 2 bear paws. I think it was a month or something like that, so that I can have it ready to be quilted before Christmas. But I think I'll just stick with doing all of the bears and then doing all of the bear paws. So it's consistent stitching rather than bouncing back between patterns. So that will be awesome. And I think it stayed very masculine, and he's definitely a masculine male for sure. So I think he'll like it. I hope he'll like it. If he doesn't, he can give it back. But that'll be in the works starting in January. And then what else am I starting? Where did my list go? Oh, I've been talking about Wensleydale, which is, I just held out the template pack so you can see again. This, I've been talking about starting this for like almost 6 months. I am starting this in January. This is what I'm doing for myself because I love it. And so, yeah, I'm gonna make that happen. And there's no timeline on this one. This one will just be blocks here and there as I feel like it and enjoy it, and that'll be lovely. I have a whole bucket of fabric. Next one, I do have a second small quilt from Joe's Little Favorites I would like to do this next month, so at the start of the year. Oopsie. And I actually have a palette page for that one. Because I did it at the same time. So I'm calling this my IC9 patch. This is what the original looks like. And I did my first one in greens when I made it. But I like it. It's super quick and dirty. It's less than 20 inches square finished, and I am going to do it in blues and browns with kind of taupey gray into cream backgrounds. I don't remember which one I chose for my seshing. That's my binding. Well, we'll find out. Anyways, I think it'll be really lovely. And I have noticed a deficit in wintry feeling seasonal quilts in my home. So I've done a lot of Christmas, a lot of autumn, Halloween kind of stuff. And now it's time to start finishing. And I've done a few summer ones, so I really need to start finishing those spring and winter non-holiday specific projects to fill in the holes, throw on the couch, drape over a chair, sit on a table, all those fun things. So that'll get worked on. Again, that's one that doesn't have a lot of timeline to it, but will just be I'm sure it will be done relatively quickly just because it's small and it won't take long to do. But okay, so I have 2 more starts. One that I have a pretty good schedule for, that's North Stars for January. And this, I'm going to pull out a cross stitch project that kind of pairs thematically with this at the same time in January. And my goal, it's ambitious, but I think I can do it, even with everything else, is to do 3 blocks a month and then be done with it. At least the blocks or the top. Once I have the blocks done, I'll throw the top together because it won't take long. But I would love to have the top done in the first half of this year and then have it quilted by next winter. So my palette is a little different than theirs. It took some negotiating, and this might be a good time to show just real quickly for people who are new. So this is my cover page. You can see I've broken up the blocks into January, February, and March. I guess the blocks are above the markers to have them done by the end of that month. And then if we turn the page, we have, I'm rearranging the layout, and I've marked what colors each will be just for my own reference. And where did the palette go? Oh, I skipped it. It's right there. So that's my color chart. And Elizabeth Hartman is great. She has a lot of moving parts in her quilts, and so she's really good about providing a page you can basically make a copy of and then stick fabric squares to, which is what I've done there. When I don't have that, I do things like this, where I will go on Pinterest and I'll pick my palette basically as a reference point if it's not firm in my head. Sometimes it's so firm I don't need this. But like for this one, it was a bit more of a creative venture, and then I found fabrics to mimic or echo that, those chosen pictures. So that's kind of how my binder works. And you'll see this one's in progress. So I've done 6 of the blocks already. I have that many to go. I've kind of got my goals, markers as clear through quilting and binding it. So, and I do that with every larger quilt I make. So lap size and up. The only reason I gave my mini quilts a page this time around was because I was trying to plan both of them at once. Like I pulled all my fabrics and I did all the cutout all at once. And it was helpful to have that reference point. Normally I don't do them for small quilts like this because they're just started and finished so quickly. I don't really need to refer back to a brain binder. But big quilts like this I do, because this one I'm hoping to do in 3 or 4 months. But oftentimes when I start something big with this, I'll do 1 a month. And so it's at least, for like this one, it would be a 9-month venture. You're not always going to remember everything when you come back to it, especially when you're doing other projects as well. So here's my bucket for North Stars. It's all ready to go. I have done no cutout on it. If I were to do something in the next couple weeks on it, it would be to cut those 3 blocks out so they're just ready to go. and I'd put them in baggies all labeled and everything. And then when I'm ready to pull them out in January, it would, in theory, go more smoothly. We will see how my easy breezy casual next couple of weeks goes with that kind of activities. Okay, next one is originally called Sunburst. I found this pattern 4 years ago. I think it was 4 years ago now. And I do have another little tiny picture. I found it in a quilt shop in central southern Oregon. That was one of the best quilt shops I've been into in a long, long time. And I took a picture of that because that's the way they had done it in batiks. Fiery reds, oranges, maroons and purples and pinks, and it was so impressive. It really took my breath away. And I bought the pattern and thought I would do it in those colors when I bought it. I had every intention of just blatantly copying them, but with my batiks. And then around, I don't know, sometime last year, I got really inspired by this palette. And so I call this my Winter Sky quilt because that's what the palette, I'm trying to pull that soft, almost airy, pinky blue purple, winter sky, magic vibe. So here's what I have so far. I have pulled fabrics, and the soft icy blues will be the backgrounds, so that light part on all the blocks. So I'll have to find contrasting pieces, but like if I pull just the first one that comes to hand, it's so different from anything I've been working on recently, which is one of the reasons it has all my juices flowing. So it'll be gorgeous. And then I have this beautiful soft pink, which will be all these light squares around the edge. And then it's super simple. You've got 2 colors for each block with a background. And then it's just super scrappy back border and sashings from your palette. So I also have this giant piece of batik gorgeousness that my grandmother gave me years and years ago. I think this will be my binding. So this will be my backing from stash, which feels really good. I'm determined to use my stash and then not feel so guilty about buying new things. But I love my stash. So it's been years and years of kind of curating and refining it. And so it's in a place where I really love everything. Anyways, so these are my colors. These will be the blocks, and then they'll come into that piano key border, and it's going to be so good. So I'm super excited. And I don't have a timeline on this one, like a set number of blocks a month. I just want to enjoy, especially where it's one that's really, with the color palette, a bit more creative. I want to be a bit more intentional about how the colors flow through it so that it retains that soft, icy feel to it. Yeah, I don't want to just pull super randomly. I want to pull intentionally. So, and then place intentionally, at least for those center starbursts. And then maybe go a little ombre around the border, or maybe that will be too stark and I need it to just be gentle scattered color. I don't know. We'll see when we get there. That's probably a year out, but I would love to get a good handful of blocks done this winter, just so we can start to get the idea of what it will be. And oh my gosh, it'll be so fun to work with these colors, which are so different from my other projects. And yeah, we'll just see where it goes. It shouldn't be too complicated. It's just half square triangles and squares. So yeah, so those are my primary January plans, and those are pretty well like rooted. I really want to do those. I'm also working on the second gift quilt, is one I've actually talked about before. And again, I don't think he'll ever watch. This is Baker's Dozen by Jen Kingwell. I started it 2 years ago, wanting to make it for my husband. And I got 3 blocks into it and life took me other directions, which is totally fine. So I tucked it away because he doesn't know it's coming. And he won't know the difference if it came 2 years ago or if it comes in 2 years from now. But in theory, I would like to give it as a Christmas present this next 2025 Christmas. If it was 2026 Christmas, that would be okay. Because I would put the bear quilt as a priority. But we'll just see what happens. We'll see what happens. I'm not making any promises, but that's the other one that we'll probably see at least some kind of action in January. So then moving on, I have this stack of ideas for possible new starts and then also for progress on whips. So I have this little quilt called Pretty Little Pots. This is the one wool applique I'm going to bring out for focused effort. It's by Wendy Williams. She ran it as a block of the week 5 or 6 years ago. And I have gotten about 20 blocks into it-ish. A small example of what they look like. So you've got your pretty little cotton pot and then your wool applique and oodles of beautiful embellishment. They are so fun. They're each so different. I'm doing these low volume rainbow colored backgrounds. Anyways, they each have personality. Another one of them is in the middle up there. In fact, all of the ones I've done are up there. I just pulled this one to show you. But they go pretty quickly. And I would like to do 3 a week for the first 3 months of the year. And then I would have all of the blocks done. And in theory, I could put together a top for spring. And even if I just wound up working on it through spring, it would sure be a happy, happy project. So I have 32 pots to go with the goal of 3 a week. And this is actually some prepped blocks, and wish me luck. If I could do one every other day before I sit down, when I sit down to do cross stitch, and just do one of these before doing the cross stitch, they'd be done in no time. So it's just a matter, diction is important, a matter of even allocation of time, so that I can get all the things done I want to. I have so many ambitious goals. You know, I do this to myself every January, and then I wind up scaling it back a bit. But that's okay. That's okay. It's fun to dream. It's fun to think that it could happen. This is a project. I got this book, Step Back in Time, for my birthday from my dear friend. And within this book is this gorgeous, stunning, beautiful star quilt. Mary's quilt. And I have had this piece of fabric since I was a teenager. It is also stunning. And I love purple. Purple and green. I really wanted to be my wedding colors, but then I got married in January and it just didn't seem seasonal. And honestly, I had a friend getting married the same year who had already chosen olive and plum or something like that. So I didn't want to be a copycat. Anyways, but I think this is beautiful. And if this is my setting square border edge, and then I pull 1800s and creams, totally scrappy, and just start doing some stars and making magic happen, maybe in a couple years I'll have a gorgeous quilt. So this is a dream at this point. I don't even have a page for it yet in my binder, but it's a dream that makes me happy. And it's one that could be just cozy sewing if I were able to cut out a whole bunch of blocks one day when the mood strikes me, and then just have them baggied up in a box ready to go, and I could just pull out and make a couple stars when I have free time. again, it's amazing how much you can accomplish with half an hour if everything's prepped. And some days you don't want to sew and you just want to prep. So it works out well. Okay, you guys, my friends, my dear friends, we're an hour and 20 minutes in. I promise we'll be done soonish. I mean, this is fun, right? I hope it's fun. I hope this isn't totally boring chatter of brain thoughts. Anyways, everything from here down is a hope and a wish, or an idea, strictly. But I have finished 2 Jen Kingwell projects in 2024. Two big ones. I did Long Time Gone. I finished that and got that quilted this spring, and then I have just finished Midnight at the Oasis, which was a beast and is glorious, and that will be quilted in the first month of the year. So I'm giving myself permission to start at least 2 Jen Kingwell quilts next year. Wensleydale is one of them, and then I'm going to start green tea and sweet peas. Beans, green tea, and sweet beans, which if I take the sticker off, you can see a bit more of. I'm thinking a spring start for this. I have had this pattern in my collection at least 6 or 7 years. I love it. I think it's so pretty. And people do such creative, unique things with it. If you look up this quilt on Pinterest or Google it and look at what people have done, it is so diverse and inspiring, and I love it. It's so much fun. It's a lot of work. There's a lot of applique with it. So that's one of the reasons it'll be more of a spring, maybe even late spring start, because I'm trying to catch up on big woods, but I feel like with 3 or 4 months of consistent appliquing, I will be ready to pull in a block or 2 of these as well. And because I've had this so long, I actually had some fabric pulled for it, which I have reintroduced to my stash, and I'm just gonna start over because those are the fabrics I pulled for it 5 or 6 years ago. And I want it to be my current voice, creatively speaking. So we're gonna start from scratch, start afresh sometime in the spring, and that will be really exciting. So plan and a dream, but a pretty determined one. This is a book I bought last year, I wanna say, and I did tag the page that has the full picture. And these instructions are just for binding, so I'm not worried too much. We'll try to hide them. But this is what it looks like. There are 24 blocks total. It is joyful, gentle, delightful, kind of retro vibes, but it doesn't have to be that. Oh, it's so pretty. I have this designer. I don't want to butcher her name. This is her name. She's Japanese. Atsuko Matsuyama? Maybe. Anyways, I have a couple of her other books. She's been designing for a long time, but I mean, let's just take in these sweet oranges. Huh? This is one of the blocks that had me fall in love with it. And they're just, I think it would just be such a happy project. And you've got some more traditional blocks, kind of a granny square, as we call it in the States. And then you have, you know, beautiful applique blocks. And I have no schedule for this one. I have no fabric pulled whatsoever, except for I have this chunk of beautiful, dusty peach. And I think that would make a gorgeous sashing and border. And then just find block by block fabrics that inspire me and go with that, and again kind of speak my creative voice right now. Where was I gonna, what am I trying to show you here? There was something in here I was gonna open it too. Oh, I was just gonna say the blocks start out with the pieced blocks, so in theory I could be doing the pieced blocks in this while I'm working on the applique blocks in this project and then switch it over once I reach that point in both projects. So I'm not echoing, while they're very similar in some aspects, you know, bright, happy applique with piece blocks mix. They're still two totally different quilts. And anyways, I think it could be really fun. So that's in the brain right now. This is a pattern I bought 2 years ago, or did I buy it right after I finished Fab Farm? I feel like I bought it. It was 2 years ago because it was right after it was published. So this is 2022. So 2 years ago, I was working on Fab Farm. Wasn't going to start this yet, but I love it. I actually have a background fabric for it. So all I have to pull are scrappy fruit colors. And I think this would be a really fun summer start. But the caveat is I have to quilt Fab Farm first. So hold me to that, because I want that out and being used this year. I have to get a backing for it still, but who knows? Maybe we'll hodgepodge something together from stash if I have enough fabric that works for that. Or maybe I'll just buy a darling checkered flannel that would be cozy and cute and farm-like. Okay. Let's see. I'm going to set that aside. These are projects that, as I was looking through and trying to make plans, had either been interesting to me this year and I never came to anything, or they are freshly interesting. So these are, I'll just go through them pretty quickly. Oak Moth Quilt by Pen and Paper Patterns. I really love their designs, and in fact, they are fairly interactive with each other. From what I understand, the last shop I worked at had a lot of their samples, and I talked to one of the gals who made them, and she said you could totally, you know, with a little bit of math and finagling, interchange blocks between them. So I have purchased both of these thinking that they will become some kind of fusion of mushrooms, moths, and fauna, and that makes me happy. But there's no palette choice yet, and it's all just dreams and wishes. But I think they're lovely. Next one is this really cool steampunk by Jen Kingwell. It comes, I bought the pattern that has an acrylic in it, which I think would be very functional when you have unique shapes. This one, I don't know, it's just so interesting. It's so cool. I love it when designers step out of the traditional. I love a good traditional, and you'll see that in the next quilt that you can kind of see peeking out there. I love a good traditional quilt. There's nothing wrong with that. In fact, my heart has fallen into a really traditional place, which is interesting. Little side note here, little fireside chat with Laura. When I first started quilting and really picking my own stuff, I was working in a quilt shop, and sorry, my lips are so dry. It is a very dry day in Utah. Anyways, when I first started picking my own fabrics, buying, like I had money, I had a job, I was buying my own fabrics, I was really drawn into traditional, you know, we're talking Thimbleberries, 1800s reproductions, Japanese taupes, beautiful, just calm, rich colors and traditional patterns to go along with that. And then as I kind of moved through my 20s, I got a bit funky and I discovered new designers and Australia, which is just my inspirational palette for so many quilts. I find so many, specifically Australian designers, to be just the spice of life a lot of the time. Anyway, so I went kind of brighter, more modern, and I've really enjoyed that. And I still, as you've seen, enjoy that. But I'm re-entering this place really in the last, I'd say, 4 to 6 months, where I've found a lot of comfort again in those rich, traditional, cozy colors and themes, and frankly, even patterns. As I sit here and hold up. So I love the funky, I love the steampunk, I love that palette with the grays and the kind of muted colors and that citrine yellow. It's so good. Love it. I could have a lot of fun with that. But I'm also loving simple, clean, traditional. I see this one in browns and greens. So brown baskets with green squares, scrappy green squares, and then just beautiful. I think this is one I would try to buy a piece of calm, low volume cream for, so that it just stays, stays peaceful. I'm really drawn to Irish, like a triple iris chain these days with blue and like a muted gold. Oh, that just like makes my heart sing. And yeah, so I really, this is one, if I were to have company in town that wanted to go to a quilt shop or come into extra money somehow, this is one that I would love to buy some fabric for. Everything else I'm really trying to stitch from stash. This is a pattern from an online designer. Let's see, Miha Handmade. Who is the designer? I know I saw it on Instagram. And so this is just a digital pattern printed out. Anyways, I think that's it. It's Miha Handmade. Full carts. This is so cool. I would love to do this one in batiks. Just an idea. I think it's gorgeous. And then again, another more traditional. This one, it comes from American Patchwork and Quilting, October 2000, that I ripped out of a magazine one time when somebody, my mom or my grandma, was purging their magazine collection, and after they went through them, I got to go through them and start building my pattern collection. That's how my first pattern collections were binders of magazines ripped out of, you know, rejects. Anyways, I think this is so pretty, and I could see a scrappy chain in the greens with, again, scrappy golds, rich warm colors. Wouldn't that be pretty? Kind of that August-September transition. I love it. So my heart is happily conflicted between multiple genres, and what a happy place to be. Yeah, so those are things that are inspiring me going into the new year. If I were to finish, and we say if only because life happens. This year I had big plans and I did accomplish some really great things, but I also moved. And you think that's like a singular event. I feel like moving is a solid 6-month event. There's the packing, there's the moving, finding new places, all of that happened. And for us, it happened extremely quickly. I would like to not do that quickly again, but we're professional movers, so, you know, we can do whatever we need to do. But then there's the settling in and learning a new place, and moving takes time, settling takes time, and I am looking forward to a year, hopefully. We'll see what happens, right? You make plans and God laughs. But I'm hoping for a year where we are home and settling, and that if there's any traveling happening, it's maybe a camping trip or two during the summer, and that the rest of the time we're just here and, I don't know, enjoying our home that we pay for every month. So all that is to say that if I was to finish Pretty Little Pots, so my little wool applique, these guys, in the spring, I came across in late summer Truffle Duffle, which I believe was Sue Spargo's, here I can show the back, block of the month 2 years ago. She usually will do a block of the month it runs for the year, and then she basically uses that year to work out the kinks and produce a book of that, but it's usually a year behind the SAL. So my guess is this would have been 2 years ago. It came out this year. It's stunning. I love a good mushroom. And I have some cross-stitch mushroom patterns and wool applique. I mean, it just seems so cozy. So I did see a picture on her Instagram where she had pulled, like, oh, it was so pretty, like seafoamy aquas, and then there were colorful mushrooms over that, and I just thought, oh my gosh, that could be so pretty. But I also love, with the grays and kind of taupes, how the colors pop. And if you look, there's a lot of detail work, a lot of stitching that comes into the background and becomes basically the surface that all these sweet little fungi are sitting on. So I'll probably stay gray. Now that I'm like thinking it out, I'll probably stay in that taupey brown gray world of color, but I'll do cotton backgrounds instead of wool. She does very little of her applique, wool applique on cotton. She has done some. It's not that she doesn't. And she incorporates a lot of cotton into her applique as embellishments, and, you know, layering is one of her magics. But in fact, we might even be able to see some of that in this. But this is the kind of project that takes a lot of brain, just in the onset. I ran one of her programs as a block of the month at my last place of work, and it took months to get set up. It was months of planning and preparation and ordering before we ever got into giving people packets. Let's just look at a couple of these up close. They are so cool. They're so cool. So I would love to, even if I just started the planning sometime this summer, as kind of a little self-reward, congratulations for finishing my Wendy Williams. Where's a colorful one? Those were all very neutral. Ooh, look at that one. I think that would be really fun to kind of start playing with, and maybe just start curating a palette and, you know, digging through scraps and finding pieces of wool and stuff like that. So my final, maybe inspirational thing to look forward to. And I've really, that's as far as I've gone. I mean, that's a lot. And if I were to even stick to half of that and accomplish it, it would be impressive. But even if I just dabble in all of it, it will be a lot of fun. And then we'll see where we are halfway through the year. I intentionally, last year, I made big goals for the whole year. And I wound up getting partway through the year, partly because of my move, because I set up my room in a new space, and it just makes you kind of readdress everything. This year, I intentionally set my quilting goals, which are on this first page, as quarterly. So January through March, this is what I will try to accomplish. And that includes things like quilting Midnight at the Oasis and catching up on Big Woods applique and my pretty little pots. And again, and this is just pulling fabrics. This is just playing with colors. So if one afternoon I come into my studio and I'm tired or anxious or whatever, I can just open up my bins and play. And that's still accomplishing goals because I'm still working towards something that makes my heart happy. So that's been a lot, my friends. If you stuck with me all this time, I appreciate it. I hope you found some inspiration or gleaned some, saw something new, or, maybe part of my ramblings I don't even know. Maybe they're just ramblings and you just spent some lovely time with me, and that's great too. I wish you all the happiest of holidays over the next couple of weeks. There's a whole array of holidays happening, and I just hope that they are joyful and peaceful for you, and that you find enough quiet time through all the crazy to retain that creative juice as we go into the new year. My next video will be in 2025. I'm going to edit this video and then sign off on all of my media for a couple of weeks. And so I'll come back sometime in the first week or two of January, and we'll dive into cross stitch and a big old whip parade and kind of what my structuring will be for stitching for next year. So hugs and love, my friends. I hope you have a marvelous couple of weeks. I'll see you soon, and all the good things.